This is just going to be a quick video on this TV because I haven't been able to find any information on it online, so I thought I might as well share it. So this is an RCA BPC 2009W, which first off I think is hilarious that something that has this very much fake wood patterning would be BPC. BPC is what they called the stuff in the 90s when it all went to black plastic, so black plastic crap. But yeah, as far as I can tell, this is from around 1971. It's a tube model. Tubes! I'm not sure if it's a hybrid or not. We can take a look inside. I think it's fully tube. And I got it at auction for $1. There's some local online auctions that I tend to peruse, you know, when I'm bored. And it came up, it had no bids. I put in a $1 bid and I ended up winning it. I wasn't planning for it. I kind of feel bad for the auction house because I ended up paying $1.28. So somewhere in the 28 cents was both federal taxes, provincial taxes, and their fees. So they probably got like 10 cents for selling this to me, which seems horrible and not worth it. But yeah, it just works. It's got a bit of jacked up vertical linearity, focus is a little weak, but I have done nothing to it. I have not even replaced the across the line capacitor, which is highly recommended on these. So don't do what I did, but they plugged it in to take pictures of it for the auction. So I already knew it wasn't going to necessarily explode on me. So yeah, let's power it on and see what it does. So I don't have it on a dim bulb because, as I said, it's already been powered up, but I will put it on the kilowatt because I want to show something with this here. So let's go to watts. Now it's got this button called Instant-Pic, which is a maintain, push in, push out switch. So this is the instant on that became very popular in the 70s, but I like the way this TV implements it. So the way this works is it's basically two switches together. If I turn this on, you see it turns on, it starts drawing current, and it stabilizes around 50 watts, I believe, or just shy of 50 watts. So this is basically the tube filaments. That's it. So this switch turns on the tube filaments. Now the rest of the circuitry goes through both these switches in series. So now that I've left it turned on, if I hit Instant-Pic,
time we opened up a can of whoop tushy on this situation.
It's on. But that means that if I just turn it on and off with the on-off switch, so I'll turn it off, it's at 105 watts right now, it should be fully off, which it is. So this tells the user, hey, you've left your TV on, right? Because I've used the on-off switch here. And this is basically your master power and kind of like your soft power if you were European or using like a early 80s Sony TV. So, I mean, this is the best implementation of a bad feature in my opinion. Oh, was I seeing a bit of bouncing there? Oh, you know what? That's just me. I think that's me messing with the switch. Again, nothing's been done on this. Nothing's been cleaned. As you can see, channel 2 is mostly coming in. If I go to channel 6, which is my other modulated channel, I have to really... Oh no, it's crashed. I have to really wiggle it. And then channel 10, I believe, is the other one. Can I even pick that up? No, I cannot. So the tuner will need a full cleaning. And I don't know how well it's coming on the camera here. Let me switch modes on the camera, one moment. There we go, that should be a little bit better. As you can see, the vertical linearity is all crappy. Oh, it's also doing some oscillation here off channel. Interesting. So if I go to a channel with a signal, see, I got full raster there with snow. I got full raster there with a actual signal. I think that's probably because we're just literally not getting anything from the tuner. Yeah, see, it's all bouncing around because this is just so dirty. If I wiggle it here and actually get some snow, it's fine. So yeah, this is all just me being lazy and not actually doing anything to it. And it's picking up stations on UHF without anything connected, because these old TVs really didn't have a lot of noise rejection circuitry. They were really designed to try and pull in as much over the air as possible. The noise rejection kind of came in later when you had more noisy equipment, computers in the home. You had cable TV that you wanted to reject the antenna over the air signals, but a TV of this age was never designed for cable. It was never designed for a VCR. It was never designed for a game console. It was designed to pick up stuff with these, or maybe an antenna on your roof. But either way, the more signals that come in, the better was the idea. Of course, these little built-in rod antennas are in perfectly good shape. I mean, it's even got the loop antenna here on UHF. Something to note about the model numbers. I went into this, I think, in a previous video on an RCA TV, but RCA had kind of smart part numbers. So BPC in this instance, B is for black and white. As far as I can tell, A and B were used for black and white. C was for Canadian models, only up to a certain year. Then the P is the model year, which I really like. For example, with RCA VCRs, a VGT 450, the G is the model year. So you can always kind of figure out when these were, even if you don't have easy to find date stamps on here. I mean, I can probably look for date codes on some parts in here, but in the meantime, P is 1971, as far as I've been able to determine. C is for Canada. So this is, in fact, sold in Canada, or at least meant to be sold in Canada, which might explain why I can't find any information on it. Hand reflection. Sam's PhotoFact doesn't have the chassis in it, or the model number. And the chassis starts with CT, which is kind of odd to me because CTC is a color television chassis from RCA. So the color TV started with CTC, and the black and white ones I always thought started with KCS, but I'm wondering, because this might have been still when there was RCA of Canada, if RCA of Canada used CT for Canadian television or something like that. And so this chassis number might be unique to what was sold here. And finally, the W at the end of this part number, because it's a BPC 2009W, is this delightful fake walnut finish. It's plastic, but it's pretending to be wood. Taking a look around back here, there's really not much. It's a very, very basic TV. So you have your built-in antennas with the wires from them, your VHF and UHF screw terminals for a 300 ohm connection. Over here we've got your contrast. Brightness is on the front, but contrast is on the back. Horizontal hold, vertical linearity, vertical hold, and vertical height. And that's it. There's no stickers back here. I mean, there's no place for stickers. Maybe they were placed up here. There's some residue. But there's no like smooth spot that you'd expect to have a sticker on. There's the interlocked power cord. There's a circuit breaker. And the text telling you that there's an interlock. So yeah, let me pull this back off and I'll show you how simple it is in here. And here it is inside. There's just 6 screws, 4 around the outside, 1 near the antenna terminals here, and then 1 near the interlock. It's a very simple, it's basically empty. Like look at the size of this metal chassis here and how much is actually being used. And it's similar on the back side too. And even just, you know, they could have used an oval speaker here, but instead this round speaker was probably more common and cheap. So they just mounted it at an angle, which means that the audio sounds very muffled and echoey because the speaker's not going directly at you and it's kind of echoing through the whole case. Like just cheap, cheap, cheap. So here's the CT chassis number, CT1928UB. Can find nothing on this at all. The only thing I find is color Hitachi 19-inch sets. Your standard warnings here. And then here's your model number. Yeah, I'm sure this was on the outside too, but probably long gone. BPC 2009W, 1.4 amps, and the relevant patents, and all the warnings about the picture tube and everything. And I believe, I mean, it kind of looks like a fully tube set. I mean, these companies were churning out black and white tube televisions in the early 70s. Just so easily. These were quite affordable from what I understand, and they had kind of perfected the design of these, which is probably why this still works. There's no wax paper capacitors on the top of the board here, and I don't believe there's any on the back. There's only this one here for across the line, which I will be replacing with the correct one once I've ordered it. Then you got your flyback here. And yeah, I mean, that's really it. Let's take a look inside here. Yeah, very little hours inside here. There's cracking, but yeah, whatever. It's to be expected from this age. And of course, being a cheaper set, this doesn't have anything fancy like a fold-down hinged chassis like the nicer RCAs. So it's got two nuts and washers on the top here, and those are 5/16, which means you're going to need a separate nut driver if you don't have one. And then the bottom two, these two screws here, you can kind of see underneath there, are 1/4 inch, so you can use the old RCA tool for that. Of course, on the inside of the back cover here, there's the tube chart, thankfully. And then there's, oh, I see. Yeah, it shows the path from one tube heater to another because this is a series string set. I doubt any tube was replaced in this thing. This feels like this sort of all original TV that barely got any use. And like, unless it's a high hours set, tubes of this type of TV lasted for a very, very long time. Here we are inside. There's really not a lot going on in here. You have your filter can over here. Say high wattage resistor, could be for dropping for the tube filaments or whatnot. There's a lot of these type of capacitors, which I believe are fine. These don't typically go bad the same as the old wax paper ones. I mean, they can, but they're not like a guaranteed bad. And the ceramics usually don't go bad. And that's it. It's on a PCB. I guess while I'm in here, I'm going to go and clean all the controls and then maybe get some test patterns on here, and let's see if I can get it looking good without replacing any components. Because I kind of want to just keep this completely original. Because it's such low hours and because it just works, the only thing that I want to replace is that one wax paper capacitor on the AC line in. That's it. Yeah, taking a look, a lot of these are RCA. You know, they have the original RCA logo, that one. Okay, yeah, I'm actually starting to check these, and they're all RCA. Neat. Means there's a very good chance these are all original, which I kind of suspected. I mean, it seems like a pretty low hours set. Alright, I thought about it, and I'm going to work on this. And I actually found the sticker. It's on the bottom. I mean, it says the same thing as inside, but here's something interesting. This was, in fact, made in Canada. So that's probably why I can't find a lot of information on it. Pretty neat little sticker. Keep Canadians working. 1971 would have been when stuff was getting outsourced overseas. So what I've done is I've taken the tuner out, and I'm going to clean both tuners. I took it out because it's easier. This front plate was loose, so I'm going to grab some two-sided tape or glue and reattach this. I also started trying to fix the vertical linearity. And I almost got it perfect, except it was cutting off on the bottom, so I'll need to play around with it. It's a combination of playing with the centering magnets, because it was way too far down, and then playing with the vertical linearity and the vertical height. So once I get all this cleaned up and put back together, I'm going to play with those, but I think I can probably get it good enough without touching any of these components. I should just pry this up and rip it off and leave it off, like Django always complains about past service techs who've worked on these. There. I think that is a date code on that capacitor there showing 7128, probably the 28th week of 1971. Here's another one, 7112, the 12th week of 1971. So yeah, I think that confirms 1971 for this TV. Little trick: if your screwdriver, or in this case bolt driver, is not magnetic and you need to screw these in somewhere deep, a little bit of painter's tape just around the edge there will hold the bolt enough to thread it in. Then you can just pull it up. Do this with the rest of them. Take the painter's tape off and then just tighten them. Makes it super easy. Alright, I think I'm just about done inside. I cleaned it up a little bit more. I doused everything, all the controls, in contact cleaner. Switches seem to be working better now. Tuner is not perfect, but it is working pretty decently. Could probably go for another thorough cleaning in there. Cleaned up the tubes nicely, cleaned the tube sockets with contact cleaner, although they were pretty good. There wasn't much of a problem there. And I did a alignment of the vertical linearity. What was throwing me off before is on the back, one's labeled vertical linearity and one's labeled vertical height, but they do relate to each other, all three. Vertical, hold, height, and linearity, you have to kind of adjust and keep adjusting to find a... It's not perfect, but to kind of find a balance to get it as linear as possible. But linearity and height on this are backwards. Once I realized that, it was super easy. So let's flip this thing around and test it out. Also, I brought out my isolation transformer just for this because, you know, hot chassis and all that. Reaching around behind it, doing adjustments, probably a good idea. Starting off with a crosshatch. I think it looks pretty decent. You'll notice a bit of a bendiness on the side here. This slowly moves up in a beat pattern of 60 Hertz from the line voltage interfering with the 60 Hertz of the vertical frequency, which is obviously not the same because it's coming from a DVD player. That could be the filter cap, but I also don't seem to notice this on stations for my modulators. It only seems to really be coming through the DVD player, through my video processor, and then through an RF modulator. So it could be one of those components as well. But there's a good chance it's this, because this is old. I have the horizontal centering almost perfect. I have it set more to be stable when I go like this. Vertical centering's pretty good. That's what these lines at the top and the bottom are. And the linearity is decent. You can't get it perfect on these. There could be a component out of spec, but I think this is pretty dang decent. And pretty dang stable for, again, I haven't changed any components on this. Let's try the circle pattern now. Circle's alright. It's a little bit squished. I think these centering lines can probably be stretched out a little bit, but I'm running it slightly inward. And again, this one kind of looks a little off. Getting this thing to the point where these squares are all equal, but also getting the height correct so this doesn't kind of look like a squished egg. You have to make a compromise somewhere. And I'm pretty happy with this given what this TV is. There is a tiny bit of a flicker. You can sort of see it there. And this also only seems to occur with the feed from the DVD player. It's not, I haven't noticed it on any of the other channels, so it could just be that this is more sensitive to very hot signals or sensitive to an issue in the signal from this equipment. But just watching this day to day with the regular channels, it seems fine. And here it is on the color bars, which brings me to a point that I'd like to bring up. See these sort of diagonal lines that are moving along here? They weren't here originally, and they've kind of shown up. So I don't know if it's something in this room causing interference. But again, these sort of TVs are not really good at rejecting that. But I want to show you, if I zoom in here, oh man, it's going to be really hard to look at that with those lines. But do you see these dots? So what these dots are is the actual color information that's not being filtered out on the TV. Because this doesn't filter out the chroma at all. It's a TV from 1971, a black and white TV, and it doesn't filter out the chroma. So let's look here. You can kind of see these dots along here. Watch what happens when I turn the color down on this pattern. I have to reach over here. Look at that. The noise goes away, and so do the dots. And suddenly this TV has quite a nice, let me zoom back out, quite a nice, solid, clean picture. And the moment I go and turn the color information back on, put it on to normal, all that noise returns. And then if I crank the chroma all the way up, well yeah, it's just overloaded. So this 1971 black and white TV doesn't filter out the chroma information. I thought, or at least I thought I read, that with the introduction of color television, TV manufacturers put circuitry in black and white TVs to filter out this chroma noise. But maybe they only did it on higher end sets. Maybe there were some cheap sets like this one they didn't do it on. So I thought this was a weird little quirk of this TV. Probably due to its low budget nature, they just didn't bother putting the circuit in. It makes watching cartoons really weird. You'll be watching, cartoons with solid patterns, solid colors everywhere, and they have this dithering texture, like you're looking at a black and white image from the 90s on a computer. And of course, here it is on the regular tuner. This is on VHF.
Oh.
Wait a minute.
So this is a black and white show, so it actually looks nice and crisp. There's no weird dot patterns on this picture at all. Turn the brightness down just a touch. It's a very, very bright tube. Channel 10's still dirty. Channel 10's the worst. I drenched this thing in contact cleaner at first, and then I got some deoxit in there, and it helped, but I think I actually have to go inside and clean each individual contact in this tuner to get it working 100%. And now I've just hooked the cable that I've hooked up on the back here. I've hooked it up to the UHF terminals, which you can't see because I have the camera on a fixed settings, so we can look at the tube.
We don't hear that.
Here's a few more pictures of a certain yearbook editor.
She came to me. Told me I'd never believe her.
It's got a nice, smooth tuning on here. Very satisfying to use. But it's got some noises. I don't know where this interference is coming from. Like there's a vertical line that exists in a frequency band here. So within all these stations, you got all this noise, and I don't know what that's coming from. I don't know if that's new in my house, or maybe just this particular TV. Oh, you know what? Does that move as I adjust? Is it picking up some sort of frequency from the oscillator in the tuner or something? That kind of... Look, as I tune, those lines move. It kind of reminds me of that... Spatsbear here on YouTube did a video with a GPX black and white TV from I think the 80s, maybe early 90s. Anyway, little cheap black and white TV, and it had the line tuner, that line that goes on the screen when you're tuning around, that like color sets had with the green and red line depending on the band you were on, except it was black and white. It just had this weird little shadowy line that moved along. And this kind of does the same thing. It moves. Sometimes there's harmonics, I guess. So, very weird. I don't know what that's about. Like I said, this TV might do better with a restoration, but maybe not. Maybe it was just always this way, and maybe this is just noise that it picked up. That's my security camera channel. Here we have comedy. That one's coming in nice and strong. Music videos, another station coming in nice and strong. A little bit of ghosting. I think if I tune around, yeah, you gotta get it just right. And then my former weather channel that's now just color bars. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to show this TV. There's really not a lot of information out there, and usually when I find stuff like that, I like to share it because stuff like this deserves to have a record somewhere. Plus, it's cool. I mean, it's such a cost-built TV made in Canada back when that was still a thing, and it's kind of nice. I like the fake chrome on the dials. It's RCA, which I always loved RCA as a kid. They were everywhere here. It's got the weird Instant-Pic feature, which the more I think about, I think this might be the first Instant-Pic TV I've seen with tubes in it. Because the instant picture, instant on, instant bake, whatever you want to call it, was kind of a thing with transistorized TVs. The idea being, wow, all these transistors turn on instantly, you get sound instantly. Wouldn't it be nice if the tube came on instantly, instead of having to wait for this one last vacuum tube? But this does it with all the tubes. It's ridiculous. Anyway, on that note, thanks for watching.